I want to make 9 Necropolis boards that come together to transform into a huge Mordheim board. So basically the Voltron of gaming boards. I have some features that I want to have definitely on my boards, and I have a few areas where I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with that. So basically I have only the outlines of a plan, but not really like a concrete plan on how I'm going to achieve this. So the best idea is probably to first get the idea of a layout down and to see where we are going with that. So let me re-emphasize this with these smaller MDF tiles, because I get them much better in frame than my 40 by 40 centimeter tiles. But the overall idea is the same. So basically you have 9 tiles, each are 40 by 40 centimeters, but if you are preferring the imperialistic way, 16 by 16 inches. So that essentially means if we arrange them like this, we get a gaming table size of 120 by 120 centimeters, or again in imperialistic terms, 48 by 48 inches, which in turn means 4 by 4 feet. So basically this is where I'm at. It looks a bit confusing and it also doesn't look like much, but basically you have like 3 tiles that are on the outside. You have like 3 tiles that are basically the ramparts or the city wall. And then you have like 3 tiles that are the city proper. You can see there's a lot of free space on those tiles because I'm still at a point where I'm not quite sure what to put where. This tile here is the most advanced in my planning stage. I want to have like 2 facing, you can say, fortresses, which are basically the first gatehouse facing the second gatehouse, and in the middle there is a small bridge. So you can see I am very dependent on your suggestions, what, for example, to put in the city, and maybe what I can do on these 2 tiles. I'm not really quite sure. So again, if you have suggestions, if you have ideas, type them down in the comments below. I will eagerly await them and I will try to incorporate the best ideas. But for now, I think I will concentrate on this tile. Specifically, I want to start with this first gatehouse. Now in my last video, I probably already dropped a massive spoiler in saying that I am playing with the idea of making this board reminiscent of the old German Expressionist era. But what does it even mean? But the basic idea from German Expressionism or Expressionism in general is to express an emotion or a feeling or a thought or something that is not really easily depictable. And all that is made possible by using deformed shapes, maybe even weird angles and forms that don't really look like they would work. But honestly, how do we actually translate that to the tabletop? And this is where this gatehouse comes into play. So I think the best way is simply to show you. As you can see, I'm building the whole structure out of cardboard. And why am I doing this? Well, first of all, cardboard is a pretty cheap material. And I always like to recycle stuff which otherwise would land on a trash heap. And another thing with cardboard is also that you can work with it very, very easily. You don't need any fancy tools, just a hobby knife or maybe even some scissors. And for glue, well, I am using hot glue for this, and I definitely recommend using it at least for this preliminary step. Because, well, it's much faster than, for example, PVA, and you can easily try different shapes and different ideas directly on the build itself. So that's where I'm at right now. To be perfectly honest, I'm not quite sure this is the right way to go. For me, it looks a bit normal, at least normal in the sense of what a typical Mordheim building would look like. So it's not really the right direction I wanted to go. But I think we can salvage this because I think we only have to add a few more weird angles and a few more weird shapes. And then this could maybe get a bit more interesting. What I also like about this material and the workflow itself is, well, it's almost like sculpting. I mean, you add stuff, you take stuff away, and then you try to figure out what is right, what is wrong. And sometimes things go in a completely different and maybe even wrong direction, like in this build. And still, this material lets you correct your approach and adjust to, well, what you actually need to accomplish your goals. Now, this is much more like it. This is way better than my first approach. However, it still looks a bit ramshackle together, but I think that is simply normal when you build something like that with these materials. But I already have an idea on how I can actually cover all these areas up. It's a pretty simple idea. And the idea is to cover this whole build with toilet paper to hide all the seams and all the little weird areas, especially here where we have a lot of the hot glue, to give this whole thing basically like a paper base coat, if that makes any sense. Because I want to glue some stuff onto that to give this thing a little bit of more realism. Not too much, because we still want to abide by the Expressionist idea of this build. But still, I think having this wrapped around in a paper shell, so to speak, will give us a good point on how we can continue with that. All right, I think I'm very happy with it, and I'm really looking forward on what you think about it. So as always, if you have any ideas on what I can actually add, or if you have any suggestions, please leave them down in the comments below. And if there are some nice suggestions, I will definitely try to incorporate them. So you keep the comments coming, I keep the videos coming, and I hope I see you in the next one.